Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Welcome back to another episode of the Quiet Light Podcast. Today's guest is a guy named Doug Pick. He owns a company or owned a company for 28 years called Hearos, Hearos, earplugs. And he is sharing his experience, sharing his story, and really an expert in longevity of a business and an expert really in taking businesses to retail, whether it's CVS or Costco or Walmart or Target, whatever it might be. He's somebody that at the end of this, give out his URL. You might want to reach out. If you've got a great brand doing really amazing stuff online, on Shopify, on Amazon, whatever your platform is, and you just need some help, some advice to kick down the door over at CVS. It took him 14 years to get into CVS. It's happening a lot sooner these days, but he might be somebody you want to reach out to and talk to about it, because he's been there and he understands the pitfalls of it and the benefits of it as well. But he's also an online entrepreneur. He was an early adopter to selling online, built his first website in 1997. We compare the cost of our websites because I built my first one in 1997 as well. We talk about that very briefly. And then really just talk about his journey, about building the business from basically, a shed out behind his house in Southern California, to, working with a local group of handicapped folks, providing them with services or jobs, and them helping him grow his business. Some of the challenges that he had in the 08-09 recession, and how he had to change his model a little bit and invest in manufacturing equipment, and what mistake he made there that was pretty substantial, and how he got through it. All sorts of great stories here. He's a great guy, great success story of longevity as an entrepreneur. It's a great listen. Let's go to it. Doug, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. You and I are about the same age. And sometimes when I have guests on that have incredible experience in history and success, I feel quite inadequate. Before hitting record, you said you did the same thing for, was it 25 years? Right? 28 years. My comment was I got out of bed for 28 years. That's the one thing I've done. Some days not fully. No, I get the itch after 7 years or so, and end up doing something else. But 28 years is impressive. But what was it? Why don't you share, your story a little bit with the audience?
Sure. I just want to comment on that 28-year time frame, because you said 7 years, and there are some that believe that life goes in cycles of 7 years. And no joke, Joe, when I started my business, it was April 1992. And when I moved on from my company, it was April 2020, almost 28 years to the date, or 4 life cycles, if you believe in that.
Yeah. I wonder if during those 28 years, if you looked at the first 7, the second 7, the third 7, and so forth, if you were moving on to different roles within the business or starting new ventures within the business, expanding to retail, things of that nature. That's, I'm approaching, next month will be year 11 at Quiet Light. I sold my business through Quiet Light in 2010, joined in 2012. So this will be year 11. And I know for the last 4 years, I've been doing something different or marching towards something different within Quiet Light. So there's always that aspect of it. I had to move on to something because I generally go at 110 miles an hour and burn myself out and need to move on to something else. And that's what I did here as well. So were there breakdowns of, different roles within what you did? And we'll get to what you did real quickly.
No, I mean, and we can just kind of bounce back to the intro, because I can take you through the starting of the company. Then we can go from there. So real quick, it was April of 1992, and I had just moved on from A&M Records, where I was very fortunate to have been recruited by the chairman of the board, Jerry Moss, because it was my dream to work in the music business. And at that time, I was managing a rap artist who was super talented. He could rap, he could sing, produce, write, dance. He had a great personality. And I just thought he was going to be the next MC Hammer. And for those that, I'm probably dating myself now, but
And
MC
me, 'cause
Hammer
I know
was
exactly
the
who that
guy
is. I
at that
had
time.
I had those parachute pants myself back in 1985. So I knew who you're
Yeah.
talking about.
So I thought I had this super talent. I wanted to be the next Jerry Moss or David Geffen. And what I learned really fast, unfortunately, is that I can't control other humans. And his objectives were a little bit different than my objectives. And so I learned that I wanted to be in a business that I could control. And so I just started studying business opportunities, and I came back to this niche of earplugs. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool because this is a highly consumable product. There's no big multinational, multi anything conglomerate that this little entrepreneur with $15,000 in savings would have to compete against. And the competition at that time was literally doing nothing from a branding, marketing, packaging, sales, promotion, you name it. This was also pre-internet.
Yeah.
And so I just started researching this category and ears and earplug manufacturers because I didn't have the funds to build a factory, nor did I have the experience. And before I knew it, I had discovered, or I should say, I was delivered this brand name called Hearos from the gods above. And the unique thing about how I spelled Hearos was it spelled HEAR, like I hear you, OS. And that was a very fortuitous time for me to have discovered that. I trademarked the Hearos brand, and I just got to work. And from 1992 until 2008, I built Hearos as a fully outsourced company. And I can describe a little bit more about that. But with Hearos and its sister brand, Sleep Pretty in Pink, I had created by 2008, 2009, the #1 and #2 best-selling foam earplugs in the retail space with relationships at Walmart, Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, Guitar Center. And then when the economy corrected in 2008, 2009, the retailers recognized that for them, they own the traffic, they own the customers that were coming in. And therefore, what they started to do was recognize categories as commodities. And the importance of that was that they could then create their own store brands and increase their profit margins. And when that happened, two things occurred. One is I realized I felt as though I had one of two options to go because I was a distributor at that time of 3M earplugs. And so I decided, well, I could either stay as a distributor of 3M earplugs. If I did that, I really wouldn't have access to my creativity and energy and passion to innovate because I would just be selling products that 3M makes. And by the way, they make incredibly wonderful products.
So just let me get a clarification. You were a distributor of 3M earplugs, but did you rebrand them with the Hearos brand?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Right. And that kind of dovetails back to what my model was, which was I had built a $7 million top line business selling approximately 20 million pairs of earplugs a year from a guest house in Los Angeles.
Brilliant.
With one employee. And I was an outsourcer, essentially. Before it was kind of hip and cool, 3PL, I didn't even know that term at that point. My thing was I wanted to maximize profitability because at the end of the day, that's the importance of a business is high profit margins. And so what I was able to do is form a relationship with a nonprofit organization in the North Valley of Los Angeles called New Horizons. And the special thing about New Horizons is that they were basically built to help provide productive services for mentally and physically handicapped adults. And so as it turns out, by the time of the economic correction, the Hearos business was providing 200 full-time jobs for these mentally and physically handicapped individuals. And they just loved putting these foam pieces into packages. And they also served as my distribution hub, logistics as well. So I was providing 200 full-time jobs to the mentally and physically handicapped.
Wow. They were shipping your products out. They were acting as the 3PL. They were doing the packaging and kitting and all that stuff. Pretty impressive.
And they were subsidized by the state of California. And so how that, from an economic standpoint, how that helped me, a lot of entrepreneurs will recognize when I say 3PLs will charge for pallet space. They'll charge basically for every movement of their staff or their assets. And the cool thing about New Horizons was there was no charge for inventory. I basically occupied almost all of their 20,000 square feet, and I didn't pay one penny in inventory. And all of their services were basically built in because all they wanted to do was help to provide these services for these mentally and physically handicapped adults. So it was a real win-win relationship. And then jumping ahead post the economic correction is I ultimately decided that I wanted to take my saved pennies and put it into a manufacturing facility, because that's what I felt for my retail partners was really the yellow brick road. So I looked at the retail partners truly as my partners. How could I help to reduce their costs? How could I provide innovation? And how could I build enterprise value for the Hearos companies? And so I started by investing $1.5 million in a manufacturing facility in Los Angeles, only to find out that the engineer that I had bet on was a fraud.
I know. I was just going to say, wow, you're the grown up in the room. You built your own manufacturing facility. You did it. Congratulations.
Yeah. That's where, the blood, sweat, and tears came in, because the challenging thing about the earplug market, which people think, oh, this little piece of foam, what do you buy this in China for a millipenny? No, actually, it's incredibly complicated in science. And the thing about it is that prior to starting my own manufacturing company, I had no sense of what it was to make an earplug. And that's because the manufacturers in the space will not let their partners see the manufacturing. It is truly tribal knowledge. And on the planet today, there's probably maybe 6 or 7 men or women that know how to do it right, because polyurethane foam is incredibly difficult to work with.
Are you one of them?
What's that?
Are you one of them? Did you continue and successfully?
Oh, yeah. No, that's
facility. Yeah,
exactly. That's where the blood, sweat, and tears came in. And fortunately, thanks to LinkedIn, I was able to identify an individual that truly, by the grace of God, was available, that had no restrictions to his ability to help. His name is Tom Wagner. And I called him Super Tom because he came in and he took the machine that we had, and he actually made it functional to the point where I was able to reboot it and build it. And then by 2016, what I recognized was that funding an earplug company in the retail space with also an interest to move into the industrial marketplace was something that I just simply couldn't afford to keep doing. And so I raised the white flag. I did it all wrong. I didn't develop a book. I didn't bring in attorneys or auditors or anything like that. I just raised the white flag, and I just started talking to my network saying, hey, I've been doing Hearos for about 25 years and I'm ready for something new. I'm interested to sell a portion or all of the company. And fortunately, I was introduced to a really great entrepreneur, and we hit it off, and he had the same vision as I did. And he had a much larger company. And long story short is by the end of 2018, we completed an acquisition of all of the Hearos companies. I worked for the company for 2 years post-acquisition, grew sales of my 26-year-old company 50% in that time, and really led that large company in gross margin contribution as well as sales growth. And then I moved on to a metaverse company, and here we are today. So I hope that provides an encapsulation of my journey so far, and lots of questions for you to ask. If that helps.
I've got so many questions. So looking back, people in the audience thinking, God, I need to start a product. They've got to think about all the boxes that, advisors would tell them when trying to create a brand. make it small and light so it ships easily
Right.
with great margins and so on and so forth. You look back and you're like, you must have hit the jackpot on all of those things.
Yes, the earplug marketplace was beautiful in that regard. I learned from USC's entrepreneur program how to do a viability study. That was a critical piece of learning, because there are those that come up with the greatest idea since sliced bread. And the key is to vet that idea, to make sure that if you're going to invest your heart, soul, and time and money, that what you're doing has merit. And that's where, after I did the research on the earplug market, it just continued to keep propelling me forward. I'm like, I'm onto something here. And I think sometimes with entrepreneurs that are so excited to be their own boss, sometimes they don't take the time to really examine if it makes sense. Because in the entrepreneur program at USC, the objective was not necessarily to write business plans to then start companies. The objective was write business plans to understand if it makes sense to start companies. Because at the end of the journey, you may find that that doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you very specifically, Joe, when I moved on from my metaverse company in March of 2022, that's exactly what I came back to. I was like, okay, I'm coming back to CPG. I'm going to develop the next Hearos type of product, not in earplugs, because that's a marketplace that I'm not able to work in now.
Right.
But I started researching new vendors, new ideas, new brands. I was buying URLs, trademarking, and I was really getting excited. But I would tell you, by December of 2022, 9 months into it, I said to myself, what I've created thus far is not good enough. So the reboot began, and that's actually been a very exciting time, because I figured out what those next steps look like and how I can create massive success with my experience and network and knowledge base.
Okay, we need to dig into that a little bit. But first, there's a word that wasn't uttered. 2 words: online sales. You've talked about big box retail and things of this nature. At what point did you leap or dabble your toe into the online marketplace, selling Hearos online?
Well, are you talking about for Hearos? When did we go into?
Yeah.
Oh, very early on.
Okay.
As soon as the internet and e-commerce was open for business, let's say, and I'm just going to guess, sometime around 96, 97, we started selling, because the cool thing about the internet when it started was it was a medium of communication between brands and their consumers.
Yeah.
And then it became a way to do commerce. And I'll give you an example of how the market in earplugs changed. When I first got started selling earplugs over the internet, we were selling 20 pairs of foam earplugs for $14.99, and then we would pay for freight. Well, I think at the end of the day, I was earning something like 80% margins on those sales. And we were probably doing between $6,000 to $10,000 a month at the very beginning, because people just wanted value. That was actually value for their purchases. Today, if you look online, you can probably get 60 pairs of foam earplugs for, I don't know, $9.99, something like that. So the value proposition has changed a lot, and the efficiencies that the internet brings brought savings to the consumer. I could share with you that we were among the first to sell on Amazon. We ultimately had a $2 million business selling through Amazon through their FBA program. And then in a fun stroke of luck, I sent one email to Jeff Bezos. And through that one email, within 48 hours, I was receiving phone calls from some of his top brass. I didn't hear directly from him, but I received emails saying, hey, I got a note saying that you're an earplug manufacturer and that you're interested to provide earplugs for Amazon for sale. we'd like to work with you. Through that one email, I was able to close a deal with Amazon supplying all of their Amazon Basics earplugs.
You're the guy that kicked off the Amazon Basics that everybody hates. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it was really fun.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I've looked online. I see the Heroes online on Amazon. I'm going to have you dig deep and very quickly. Can you remember how much you paid for that first website back in 1997?
It would only be a guess, and I would say $1,000.
Okay. That's actually not, that's a lot. It's 20 times more than I paid. I paid $50 way back then.
Wow.
I was doing radio and TV advertising, and we just threw up a website, and man, the sales just every day, it was shocking what happened with next to nothing. Obviously, with, if you were doing Google paid ads, pay-per-click back in the day, not only have you gone from $14.95 for selling, 20 pairs to 60 pairs for $10, but your cost of advertising has gone up a tremendous amount as well, I would imagine. But you've got a brand name now. So do people search for the brand name? I know it's not yours anymore, but did you find that?
Well, that was also one of the key goals of what I set out to do with my brand. When I first started, I had no experience about how to package earplugs. I didn't really know anything about branding. I was in the music business. So what I did was I was like, okay, I'm going to go study brands. So no joke, I went to the local drugstore, and I remember sitting on the floor of the aisle, staring at Colgate toothpaste, Coca-Cola, Anheuser-Busch, Gillette, the big brands that had the dollars to invest in packaging and branding. And when you look at the Hearos packages, even to today, so I designed with my designer all of the packaging that anyone will see on the website across all of the brands. Every product, every brand name was one that came from between my two ears. And so the packaging today that you'll see is actually, it's a combination of, from a branding standpoint, Gain detergent. That's who I emulated. And then from the actual package, we emulated Bic razors. And that was simply by going to at the time it was walking Walmart and Walgreens and CVS and just seeing what was going on. And like, oh, that's really cool. I think I can apply that. So I would just take pictures, make notes, and then bring it back to the designer and say, hey, this is cool. I want to bring this to the marketplace. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to the podcast, look at what's going on in the category. And I would venture to guess, even to this day, Heroes is one of the most innovative, attractive packages that you'll see in the category, because that was just what my objective was. I wanted the package to scream at the consumer, look at me. And so I hope that is what people see when they look at those packages.
Everybody take a look. I'm restraining myself from looking at Gain detergent and whatnot as we're talking now. I'm curious, how quickly did you add heroes.com to your packaging and retail?
Immediately.
Good. And so when you launched the website, when online business was open, did you immediately get traffic where you were not needing to do paid advertising because of the size of the retail distribution that you had?
Well, just for clarity, I'm someone that strives for the delightfully disruptive. And I wanted to combine that to empower my retail partners. When the internet first came to life, in a sense, the retail marketplace didn't take it seriously. It wasn't what it is today. The formula was, when I would go for meetings with the big retailers, the questions would be, so tell me what you're doing from an ad spend on TV, radio, and print.
Yeah, of course.
Internet, what's that? We don't care about that. Now, that's the beginning of the marketing process. One thing I did, and again, my whole thing was to try and empower the retail partners and drive sales in a way that really what they're interested in is how do you drive customer foot traffic through their doors? That was one of the ways that we wanted to appeal to say, hey, we're a good partner to you. So in 2006, 2007, my brother and I joined forces, and we created a campaign that utilized the internet to build brand equity. And the campaign went like this. We ran ads to drive people to our website so that they could get a free pair of earplugs. Shipping earplugs through the mail was not terribly expensive. So the cost of acquisition of those people for trial was very low. And we could, if we wanted to, we could have gotten 15,000 what I'll call interested parties per day. So you receive the package in the mail. In that small envelope was a pair, and you could decide whether or not you wanted Hearos, or the female brand that I created was called Sleep Pretty in Pink. That was the first pink earplug in the marketplace, directed towards women that slept with snoring Joes. Mm-hmm. and in that package was a bounce back coupon. So you try the product. You might like the product. Now take this product to Walmart or Walgreens and redeem it to save on your next purchase. And also, if you really like the product, we wanted to use YouTube, which was also a new medium at the time. Post your favorite video, create a video on your phone, and tell the world about how Hearos or Sleep Pretty in Pink helped you, or create something fun. And for that, if you won the contest, you could win $5,000 or an iPad or some other interesting thing. And that's how we stood out. So
you're a pioneer in almost everything that everybody strives to do today.
Well, we were just having fun. We were thinking, how do we utilize this medium? We were also the first one to do an app in the marketplace. So for Sleep Pretty in Pink, we created a Sleep Pretty in Pink app. And what that did was it measured snoring Joe's snoring.
Oh, no.
How many decibels is he snoring?
You're giving the wife, a tool to use against their husband. See how bad this is, right?
Yeah. Well, you could do it on the Hearos app as well. But again, it was always about, for me, with Hearos and any brand I work with, it's when I drive a company, I am not looking in the rearview mirror. I'm looking forward for what is the cool next thing that nobody's thought of.
And I want to get to that, but I have two questions for us.
Yeah.
I want to go forward and see what you're up to today, but I'm going to go back to the Amazon basics, right? That phone call you got from Amazon saying, hey, will you manufacture these for us? Back then, they were $14.95 for 20 earplugs. Today, they're $10 for 60 earplugs. How did Amazon Basics selling earplugs and competing directly against you when you're doing $2 million a month in revenue, or $2 million a year, I forget what you said, how did it impact your business, if at all?
Well, to be honest, so that deal was actually done much later on in the evolution of the earplug category. And I think to this day, I don't know that Amazon kept it afloat, not because the product wasn't great and not because the value that Amazon offered wasn't fantastic. In many companies, there is a revenue threshold that they require. And my sense is, because I'm not with Hearos anymore, and I don't have those internal workings of knowledge. My sense is that it just didn't meet the threshold of what they require to keep a category alive, for someone to actually monitor it, for them to manage the inventory, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, but I do know that the value that they offered was good. And at the same time, overall, in the land of consumer products, there are really two types of customers. There are those that will only buy brand. Actually, I should say three. There are those that will only buy brand. There were those that will buy brand and select store brand. And there were those that will only buy store brand. So from the mass of opportunities for Hearos in the earplug space, I don't imagine that it really impacted much of the sales. because we had fanatical customers. And that was the other thing about what I set out to do with the business was I wanted to create the Kleenex or Coca-Cola of earplugs. I wanted when someone tried the products and loved the products that they didn't think of it as these are just earplugs. When we got emails from consumers, they'd say, I love Hearos. And if you ask them, what kind of earplugs do you wear? They'd say Hearos or Sleep Pretty in Pink. And that was really cool. That was just a great feeling to know that people were passionate about something that I started in my apartment.
And something as simple as an earplug, which is pretty amazing. Okay, so my second question came around your deal, right? You just threw up the flag, white flag, say, hey, I'm done. I've been doing this for 17 years. Who's interested in helping me or buying some of this company? Did you exit fully after 2 years, or do you still own some of the company? Question number one. And number two, knowing what you know today, are you satisfied with the value that you got?
Oh yeah, no, it was a fantastic opportunity. So first question is I don't own any of Hearos anymore.
Okay.
It is owned by another company. I'm not involved, have not been involved in any way, shape, or form since April of 2020. And am I satisfied? Absolutely. You know, in life, you have your chapters that you live through. And in many regards, I lived through 4 chapters, if you look at the 28-year span of Hearos, and it was a wonderful run. And now let's bring on the new opportunities and the next challenges that are in front of me.
You know, normally, and I'm still going to ask you the question, but normally I'd say, you know, what do you recommend people do for a period of time after they exit their business fully? Take
great question.
A month off, a week off, a year.
Yeah.
But you did it when the pandemic hit. So you were probably self-isolating and sort of directed because of that. But realistically, let's say that I'm exiting my business today, or anybody in the audience about to pack it up, hang their cleats up, and they're an entrepreneur and they've got that I can do this mentality, or I can do that. And, you know, and they want to jump onto something else when, you know, I've got a good friend that sold for $9 million and jumped right into something else the next day, and he regrets it. He regrets not taking time off. What is your general all-purpose recommendation, one size fits all for people that are exiting?
I'd say one word: breathe. And I say that because for 28 years, Hearos, aside from my family and my personal life, it was 365 days a year, 7 days a week, and even up to the exit and post-exit. It's work. And if you have the luxury to be able to take a moment to just catch your breath, go on a trip, enjoy yourself, let your mind heal. And truly, I do mean heal, because the other thing I can share with you, Joe, is the challenge of just what we deal with as humans working in America today is high stress. It doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for somebody. It's high stress. COVID added another element of stress. and I was tired. I mean, fatigued.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding when I tell you, I needed about a year to let my brain heal. I didn't. I went right into working with one of my best friends in a high-tech company because I was excited. So I can't say that there's a one size fits all. I would just encourage those that have the good fortune to exit to give yourself grace, enjoy, be good to yourself, be good to your family, take a trip, sit on the beach, whatever is your zen, do it. And then when you're ready, come back to what you want to do. If you want to, I have a friend who exited for 9 figures, and his probably biggest challenge is figuring out which helicopter he's going to fly today. And that's for him. And I asked him, I said, you know, hey, are you going to get back into business? And he's like, no, I think I'm good. So it just depends on what level of an exit takes place. And to what extent you want to get back into the game. Some are just addicted to the thrill of creating and building.
Yeah. I saw a interview with Matt LeBlanc from Friends the other day, and he said, I took a year off, and I don't like to work, so I took a year off. I'd been grinding it for a long time, so I took a year off, and then you know what? I kind of liked doing nothing, so I took another year off, and it's been 5 years or something along those lines. I think as entrepreneurs, like like you said, 365, 24/7. There's something about approaching my bedroom when it's time to go to bed, and a lot of entrepreneurs have the same affliction. You're tired, you're ready, you're going to bed, and all of a sudden your mind goes boom right to business. And did I do this? Should I do that? What about this? And your mind, it's crazy. And my wife will tell me, that I'm not always present sometimes because of the fact that it's 24/7. How has you stepping away from Hearos impacted the relationships with the people around you now that you took some time to breathe?
Well, I would just say, for me, I'm just more mindful.
Don't tell me you got divorced and you're estranged from your kids, please.
No. No, I am amicably separated. I have a great relationship with my children, and I'm just very mindful of time. And I'm 54. I'll be 55 next month, and I don't know that I have tomorrow. And so I want to just make sure that the people around me know how much I love and care for them. And when I'm with them, I'm present. That's really important, because, as you say, when you are in the throes of your objective and your passion, and Joe, I think that's a cool thing, that you are always thinking about your business. That tells me you're engaged. That tells me you're passionate about what you're doing. And that's a wonderful thing in life, to be passionate about your mission, whatever it is, and that it's rewarding and fulfilling for you. Because otherwise, it's not a lot of fun.
I hear you. So now that you've moved on from Hearos and you've started some other stuff, what exactly are you up to today? You said you were
a lot of different things,
a lot of research. So tell me what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I just, I'll say this: COVID was a real roadblock to growth, I'd say, for myself and probably for most people, because of being isolated. Sure, we had Zoom, but there's nothing that can replace that face-to-face, shaking hands with somebody, sitting across a table, brainstorming in person. And so I've had two recent experiences. So I mentioned to you that as of December of 2022, I realized that I needed to think through what I wanted to do again and what DAP Ventures would be. And so it's open. The company is open to a lot of different things at the moment. So first and foremost, it's products and opportunities that I might create. I'd be very honest in saying to you, at this moment, I personally haven't created in my head something that I think is amazing. And what I found is, in collaborating with individuals. So, for example, I'm in process of developing a new sleep brand, not in earplugs, but a new sleep brand with a content creator on TikTok that has 15 million followers, I should say. I'm in development of a feminine hygiene product with another content creator. I'm speaking currently to 9 different companies that are in revenue, that are in the consumer product space, that I'm excited about, that I think have great potential. There is a CBD company that I'm looking at for a CEO position, could be fractional. And then there's also a tech company that I'm really excited about, that I really like the CEO. I like what they're doing, and being able to share their opportunity with how their tech can positively impact those online is just natural and fun. So I in the grand scheme of things, I'm open to a lot of different, and probably within the next few weeks, I will be biting down on 1, 2, 3, or 4 opportunities that will lead me to focus, because that's really the thing. When you don't have focus, you really need focus. And that's where I'm headed next.
That's a lot of stuff you got going on.
There's a lot. Yeah.
You sure you want to do all of that?
Well, it's really fun because all of these opportunities involve people. And bear in mind, I was in isolation with my business for almost 3 decades. So to be able to collaborate with people, those that are content creators on TikTok, that adds a whole new element. And omni-channel distribution is really fun because whether you're doing direct to consumer plus Amazon plus retail, or you do it individually, each one has its own set of challenges. And then it's worth pursuing.
Excellent. Before you invest in the TikTok business, make sure that Congress doesn't pass a law where we ban TikTok in the US. I'm sure you're focused on that. That'd be awful for those content creators that are doing so much. Unless, of course, the Chinese are truly spying, which I'm not an expert and I don't have an opinion on it. Doug, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, the ups and downs, the mistakes, the triumphs, and what you have going on now. There's so many people out there that need this type of advice, need to hear that you made a mistake with a con artist on that first manufacturing plant where you invested $1.5 million. We all screw up, right? Yes. But the younger entrepreneurs that are out there in the world and our children and whatnot, they don't know it. They can't, I don't know, feel it the way that we felt it. They have to go through it, unfortunately, but hopefully by sharing stories like you're sharing, it'll make them think twice and do a little bit more research before jumping into that new brand or new business. So thank you for sharing all of this. How do people connect with you? How do they reach out to you? What's the best approach?
They can do it one of 2 ways, either through LinkedIn's always easy, or they can visit dougpick.com and send me an email. It'll go directly to me.
dougpick.com, Pick. Pretty easy.
That's it.
Yeah. Excellent. Doug, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.